Okay, good morning everyone. On behalf of Dyne365 Pros and AX Mentor, welcome to today's presentation. Our mission? Simple. Provide customers the highest level of advice and service when implementing and using Microsoft Dynamics 365. Today you'll see a presentation on Microsoft Dynamics 365 Enterprise Edition with an emphasis on managing project service automation. Dynamics 365 for project service automation is built to assist professionals such as attorneys, auditors, IT consultants, professionals in construction, and so on. For the next 60 minutes, you'll get a high-level overview of Dynamics 365 for professional service automation, project service automation. If you need a second look or deeper dive into a specific piece of a Dynamics Enterprise app or a workload, we'd be happy to do that at a later date. My name's Mark Abus. My colleague Ken Farmer will be doing the heavy lifting today, providing the demonstration in a live Dynamics 365 environment. So let's talk a little bit about the why of Microsoft Dynamics 365. As you know, for too long, enterprise-level business solutions have been too broad, too expensive, and difficult to deploy. With Microsoft Dynamics 365, you have the flexibility to deploy just the parts that you need. Project service automation alone, project service with sales, project service with operations, etc. Another complaint was these systems were siloed with little interoperability or integration. Finance didn't talk to service and repair, project management didn't integrate with sales, email and calendar didn't sync with CRM. This was not just an inconvenience, but a real pain point that produced a lot of workarounds, redundant data entry, spreadsheets that needed to be shared. In short, a lot of headaches. Dynamics 365 changes that, providing you with one connected platform for managing your internal and customer-facing processes. Dynamics 365 is very process-friendly. You don't change to adapt to the system. We configure the system to support and facilitate your specific way of doing business. With Microsoft Azure, Internet of Things, and Cortana Intelligence built in, your staff can be guided to make the best decisions and take the right actions at the right time. Extensibility? It's built in so you don't have to worry about outgrowing your system or your investment. Here you see all the processes and workloads you can manage with Microsoft Dynamics 365. Again, one united platform for managing all your business, lead capture, sales and contracting, project management, service scheduling and dispatch, installation and repair, inventory management and finance, all under one roof. So based on the feedback we've received from clients, these are among, I call them the most appreciated benefits of using Dynamics 365 for project service automation. So we'll speak to these during the demonstration today. And among the workloads we're going to review, you see those here. We'll touch upon all these and other areas related to project management and documentation, time recording, billing, reporting, sales and labor utilization, etc. So at this point, I'm going to hand over the presentation to my colleague Ken. He's going to take us through a live presentation of Dynamics 365. So just hold on a second, and I'll get that done for you.
Thanks, Mark. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending upon where you are today. My name is Ken Farmer. As Mark mentioned, I'm the president and also the chief solution architect for Dynamics, for our Dynamics 365 consulting team. We focus exclusively on Dynamics 365. I've personally worked with the product since Beta 1 back in 2001. It was released officially in 2002. I have focused on this product and its workloads because it, number one, kind of fascinates me, and I've got a passion for the workflow and the business process around it, but also the commitment that Microsoft is making to the product and has over the last however many years since its inception. We're excited to show you today project service automation. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. If you haven't seen Dynamics 365 yet, I encourage you to look at some of our previous videos regarding just sort of the Dynamics 365 overview. But if you're looking for, as Mark said, some deeper functionality review, some different workloads and workflows specific to your organization, please contact us. The contact information will be discussed at the end here. Contact Amir, contact ourselves so that we can get you a view into what you need to see. Today, I'm just going to touch real briefly on navigation and such. Just to kind of give you an overview of where we are here on the screen. Hopefully you can see my screen okay. Mark hasn't told me otherwise, so I'm going to move forward. So with Dynamics 365, as Mark said, you've got a whole host of different enterprise level apps that are built in. So we're here in the sales app, but I want to show you real quickly, because I'm logged in as an administrator and I've got access, of course, to all of the different workloads and apps that exist. You can see the ones that are loaded here into my demo environment, whether it's sales, customer service, marketing, project service, as well as the field service, which both of those last two share the resource scheduling piece. The nice thing about Dynamics 365 is you tailor it for individual role-based access. So for instance, if we go over here and we just kind of grab this first menu, you can see here the different apps, the app level workloads that I've got installed: sales, customer service. This is the project service automation, and then of course the field service piece here as well. It's kind of cut off with the resolution here at the screen. So for instance, if I'm a user and I'm just focused on project service, I'm going to go ahead and just click on this one app here, and it's going to pull me right into the project service piece. And you can see now that I just really have project service access, and because I'm still an administrator, I've got settings, and then of course there's an extensive training and help section as well for your users. But along here under project service, you see that we've got some pieces of sales, because project service generally starts at the opportunity level. And we'll touch briefly on that. We don't have time to get into it. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to breeze over some of the functionality only because we're dealing with an hour. This is a half-day discussion by itself easily. But we're going to touch on the key pieces and walk you through to give you a really good, solid overview, I think, of project service automation. So we'll start at the opportunity level, and we'll talk about that. We'll move from there into the quote that's generated off of the opportunity. Both of those are really where you can start in the sales process, the project service automation workflow or workload. Building your estimates, building your quotes based off of real numbers, based off of what your cost may be around implementing a certain project. And this can be done not only for external customers where you're delivering $1 of value of say consulting services or widget sales or software sales or whatever the case may be, but this can also be used internally. So for existing internal IT projects where you can manage it, you can assign resources, you can do some internal cost code billing to make it really flow and give you the kind of information that you need internally to be able to do some real good level job cost type accounting to see how your internal projects are going. We also have clients that use these for that are using this for say new product rollouts where they've got a large product that's either in design and manufacture, and then they're going to do some marketing and rollout around it. So there's internal workflow and workloads as well as the external. We're going to focus on an external one today and kind of walk you through that process. So from the quote level, we're going to jump in and we're going to start taking a look at the projects and how those are designed and how you interact with those projects, how you set them up, and then how you assign resources, right? We're going to go over and hit the schedule board area, show you a little bit about how the schedule board works, and again, we'll try and get you all the information to give you that good overview level view, but it's quite extensive as you've got utilization and requirements and your ability to build in all kinds of different categories and skills and roles and such into your resources and truly get a good picture of what those resources are available to you at the various points in time. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that just because it's pretty extensive. Last thing I just want to show you here is under settings. So as we look at the different setup areas inside of not just this, lots of this information flows through into field service as well, but you have the ability to get pretty detailed and granular if you choose to. You don't have to. You can make this as granular as you like, but the ability to put in transaction categories, track time and expense against your projects, to invoice directly from CRM if you choose to. It's depends on your process in terms of whether you're billing out of, say, ERP, or you're starting the billing process inside of Dynamics 365 and passing that information to ERP, hopefully one of the Dynamics 365 ERP offerings to make it much smoother and much more of a consistent experience for your users. All right, and then we'll wrap up with some time entry, expense entry, and talk a little bit about that. All right, so we're going to jump right in here. We're gonna look at opportunities, and I'm going to try and not talk too quickly. Sometimes when there's an enormous amount of information, I want to try and cram as much of it in here as I can, but I just want to make sure that you get a really good solid overview. We can answer questions at the end, of course. You'll be able to ask questions through your GoToWebinar, GoToMeeting console. Type in your questions. You can do that at any time through the presentation, and we'll answer those at the end. All right? So we're going to go in and we're going to grab, let's use this opportunity here. And this is an opportunity that's for a department store. They've just acquired some new department store chains. They want to bring all of those under their current umbrella. This is a large organization. This is going to be a large project for them. They've got a budget of, and at least initially was identified at $200,000 for this project. But here at the opportunity level, I want to point out a couple of different things. First, this ribbon here. This is our business process flow ribbon. And this is completely configurable based on individual needs for our clients. This is a standard 4-stage process. Each one of the stages that you go through, you've got different tasks or different pieces of information that you need to collect to get to the next stage in the opportunity. Pretty standard. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. I'm just going to push that up and give us some more real estate. But I do want you to be aware of that, because as we move into quotes, you'll see some of the same business process flow. It's not necessarily the same process, because we have the ability to switch processes and do that either manually or automatically. Again, this is a security-based configuration. But as you move into projects, it's a different process in project than it is at the opportunity level. It's maybe a different process even at the quote level. There can be a sub-process at the quote level that we'll take a look at. But here in the opportunity, you have what I like to consider the basic demographic information here on the left-hand side. Who the contact is you're dealing with, the account, who the account manager is. In this case, it's going to be moi. We have the concept in Dynamics 365 of having different contracting units. So as a large organization, we may have a US group or a Western group, and go ahead and assign these different things to different billing units, right? So they may be running their own mini P&Ls, they may be doing all kinds of different things. So you want to make sure that you're contracting it out correctly internally to the right group. This could even be an internal group. So you've got, your contracting unit is actually going to be, contracting IT. So that could be, so you're running a combination of internal and external projects. Currency, product price lists, of course, being assigned here as you would expect at the opportunity level. Different information here around their situation, their need, and a proposed solution. In the middle, this is our social activities pane, where We're creating notes. If we're integrated to SharePoint, we have OneNote in here for collecting the information and controlling it. We can link this up with Office 365 groups for collaboration. So the full integration with Office 365 allows us to use all those tools, right? SharePoint for document storage, Office groups, and OneNote for collaboration, which also uses SharePoint. So all of those pieces and parts to really bring in that experience to make it easy for your group to manage these. Over here on the right-hand side, we see that we've already started building the client stakeholders out, the ones that we're going to need to work with. You can assign different roles, of course, to them. You know, are they an influencer, whatever the case may be. This is all standard sales level opportunity type functionality that we have in here. I won't spend a lot of time on that. If we're building our sales team internally, we can also start adding them here. So let's scroll down and start looking at the actual guts of the opportunity, which now are going to be turned into the quotes that we're going to be working with. So under the opportunity line section, you see that we start with project-based lines. Now, because this is this comes in, this concept of project-based lines versus product-based lines comes in with the addition of project service into Dynamics 365. You have the ability to break it out. In this case, we've created two different project-based lines. One is going to be just a fixed price for regular consulting work. The other one is the development piece, and that's going to be a time and materials billing. And we'll get back to that later. Product-based lines, this is where you're selling your widgets, or in this case, CRM subscription, since this is a CRM project. You want to build this in and start working on getting all of this correct to your client. And then as we move down here, we get to quotes. In a sales process, oftentimes you're building multiple quotes for a customer to review. They may want them broken down differently. You may present them with a quote, and they say, this looks great, but I want to change this piece, or I want to add some additional widgets or licenses. I want to, hey, let's we really want to see a fixed bid piece as well as time and materials. So you may have multiple quotes. Doesn't mean, as you can see here from the total amount rolling up, it doesn't mean that these quotes are together a part of the opportunity, and it's not going to mess up your sales reporting. It's just they're different quotes, right? So from the opportunity level, this is where your salespeople are working. And they can bring in, when you start building these quotes, that you can start bringing in your internal practice team to help you identify, of course, services, right? So we're going to go ahead and pop this one quote up here. And this is one of the two quotes that we have for this opportunity. You can see that's identified here. And at this point, you can either engage the consulting team to help you with building these project templates and assigning resources and really getting pretty granular in terms of your quote, or not. It is completely up to what you're doing internally. By doing it and bringing them in, you can start looking at things about, are we going to be finishing early, or how are our numbers compared to what the client is looking for, right? Because you really want to get to that sale. You're looking for something that makes sense internally, a bid that you're not going to lose money on, that you've got a good solid gross profit margin on, as well as the customer being able to look at it and say, yeah, that may be a little higher than my budget, but the value that's being driven here is something that makes sense for me. So at the quote level, we have the different, again, the kind of this demographic information about the quote. You've got a bill to, ship to, if there's a ship to needed. You've got your social pane over here around activities, emails, tasks, appointments that can be assigned and linked to this quote. You have a quote expiration date, always a good thing to have when you're presenting your quote to your customer. And then, of course, it's carrying over the project-based lines and the product-based lines from your opportunity. So once you're here, you can certainly make changes to these. So if the customer is saying, yeah, I want to, look at the fixed price as being a little different. We want to change this. We want to add perhaps a third, break it down even more from the 2 into 3. And you can make those changes here at the quote level. You can revise quotes. So once you present it, see the revision ID is 0. That's the base quote that you've created. You present that to the customer. They come back and say, yeah, this is close, but really I want to look at this instead and these 2 widgets instead of those 2 widgets. You can instantly revise the quote coming in, and it basically will create a copy. It'll deactivate the previous quote, the revision 0. It'll add a revision ID as 1. And you can move on, and then that's your active quote that you're working with a customer. So it tracks what you're doing as well as allowing you to look back if you need to, and really getting your customer what they need. And everybody who logs in can quickly take a look and see what is active, what's working, what they need to work on to help you with. Okay? So the next point I kind of want to show you here on the quote is when we're getting down here into the profitability analysis. And I'm going to just go ahead and load these charts real quick. We don't have a lot of costs built behind this yet, and unfortunately we don't have the time to do that today. But if you do have the costs built into your quote and at the project level, and I'll show you that in a second, it will flow through here. And you can really see from a quote standpoint what your gross profit margin is going to be. Obviously, this would be a fantastic gross profit margin to have, but you are going to have some costs. And all of that then gets calculated for you automatically. And then you come down here and you can even compare it to what the customer expectations are. So you're really getting some actionable intelligence, and this is all through the project service module. You're getting some actionable intelligence about these quotes. You can review them internally as a group to show if this is a go or no-go. Can I present this to the customer? Is the gross profit margin acceptable for us? All of those pieces and parts give you actionable intelligence to make forward momentum with your customer, right? You don't want to give them a made-up quote where you've got no gross profit margin and you think you're going to try and pick up the costs later on down the road. There's all kinds of different information that you can present here that's going to really allow you to present the right quotes to your customer. All right, so from the quote, we've actually attached projects to these 2 different project baselines, and we're going to drill into that here, one of them here in a second. But the key here is, again, you don't have to do it in the quoting stage. You can certainly start your implementation and go live with it only happening at the project management level and not at the quoting level, and then you can certainly start bringing it into the quoting level later if you choose to, or you can just roll it with both at the same time. It really just depends on your need internally, what your company is used to doing. So from the quote, now we're going to jump into the actual project itself, and this is really where we start driving forward the efficiencies throughout your organization that are going to need to that you're really going to need to help you grow as an organization, as a professional services team, as a consulting team, as even the example I gave for one of our manufacturers, distributors, using it internally to help them really guide through a product launch. Whatever your scenario is, the ability to configure project service for Dynamics 365 is pretty broad and deep, okay? All right, so let's look at the project. So you can see here, we're in here at the project level, which of course we just went through the opportunity and went through the quote, and then this is one of the project lines within the quote. You can see all of this information carries forward. The customer we're working with, we actually started with a calendar template. And you have calendar templates for a lot of different reasons. It could be geographical, time zones, it could be contract-based, it could be a lot of different reasons. We've just got a regular default template in here, obviously the dollar, contract unit, the project manager at this point is myself, and we actually started with a project template. So let's talk real quickly about the actual project templates and the projects underlying these records. Microsoft Project is a very powerful tool, and Project Service allows us to use Microsoft Project files to guide us, and you'll see here as we get into the actual project template itself and the breakdowns, the work breakdown structures, and all of that, how it truly is a underlying project template. If you're used to seeing and working with Microsoft Project, it will all look very, very familiar to you. You can create templates so that if you have a repeatable, structured process, so for instance, and this is great at the sales side, where you know that you've got a project that you generally sell over and over and over and over again, your sales team can be shown how to just grab that template for the level of project that they're selling, and then it has all of the information built into it in terms of consulting efforts, functional roles, all of that built into the template that feeds directly into their quotes, and it starts producing some of those gross profit margin numbers that we shared. So something to really focus on as you start looking at project service type solutions is the ability to integrate that, the ability to bring that in, right? So we've got some estimates here in terms of start dates, estimated costs, estimated hours, and then of course it starts tracking the actuals for you. So as we start entering time and expense, it's going to start bringing all of this information in for you as we go. Sales, I just want to touch really quickly on these, and then we're going to jump into the actual work breakdown structure itself. But once you sell it, once you actually close a quote as one, a project contract is created, and that project contract controls billing information, right? Frequency of billing, what the billing method is, and just controls the ability to grab the time entry, the time expenses, the software, all of that information feeds to the contract, and then you're generating invoices at various times, whether it's twice a month, once a month, however it is that you've contracted with this customer. And all of that is controlled at the project contract level. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to get into that today, but I will show you some that are created. And then, of course, we've got the different the different project quotes. There's a couple of different down here, and then your opportunity. The team is, once you start assigning resources, whether it's a role or whether it's a person, each person you can have set up with a cost level attached to it, as well as what their billable rate is. All of that can be put in here and controlled. And then, of course, we have the basic status. What's the overall status of the project? These are going to be led by whether you're on time, on budget, how your costs are going, your progress is going. Since we haven't started this project yet, you don't see a lot of information here. And then, of course, down here we don't have anything, but it's based on, you can take a look at it differently. You can take a look at it by role, phase, etc. But this is all what's going to be calculated and developed for you automatically just by your team doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're going in and entering their time against a specific project or against a project task, and generating all of that information for you automatically in the background. All right, so that's the project, what I call the header, which is really controlling a lot of the data that you've got. But let's get into the meat of it right now. And as we go in and we look at this specific project, this development project for this customer, we have a couple of different areas to go. We can look at the team members themselves, some tracking, some estimates. We're going to really just kind of look at these first two for right now. We're going to start with the work breakdown structure, WBS. And if you're familiar with project management, you're familiar with what you're going to see here on the screen. Now, we've got some things hidden, so the hours are not going to appear to match up for you, but some things are hidden in the background on this. But I want to show you a couple of pieces here. So again, project managers, this is a familiar view to you. You can see that we've got the different tasks automatically scheduled, the different IDs, and then of course the task name. If there's any predecessors, what the effort is going to be, and then where we really start getting into the PSA add-ins and value-driven is where you're assigning the roles. So you can see here you've got a series of roles that can be assigned to this. In this case, this one is a functional consultant. This design piece is an architect, developer, and these are all configured for you. And you can assign costs at the role level or costs at the actual resource level. And generally you do both, because when you just have the assigned roles, you want to see the initial cost during the sales process. But then as you get into the individual resources being assigned after you've closed the deal, after it becomes a real project, that's when it really starts making sense, right? So let's just kind of move this over a little bit and give us a little bit more real estate here on the Gantt calendar. As you would expect, as you are accustomed to seeing in Microsoft Project, you've got obviously this spread across the different calendar weeks. We're at a month scale. We can certainly change that to a weekly scale if we choose to. A little easier for our demo to see it at the month level. But because this is because we start with a template, you can go in, and once you've decided, all right, we're going to have a start date of July 1st. Well, July 1st is a Saturday, so it really, in effect, is going to start on the 3rd, which is the Monday. You can then move the project as you need to, right? So pretty straightforward. You select the date, you set it up, and you start generating all of the different task lines that you need. You can see here with the arrows that these are all set up with their predecessors. So this one, this task here has to happen after project kickoff. This task here after design is after discovery, pretty straightforward. And you can also change these. So I can grab this and say, you know what, we need to take our design, and we actually need to get that a little bit shorter. So we're going to change that up. And as I change that, it's also going to change everything after it because of the predecessor relationships that are set up, again, as you would expect in Microsoft Project, right? So a couple of things on here. Of course, you've got the add tasks, delete, indents, outdents, all of the things that you generally have when you're managing projects and building a project plan, right? You can also at this point generate the project team, and what it's going to do is it's going to take the different roles that we've got here, and it's going to look for resources within your organization that you have assigned that have these roles, and it's going to look at their schedules, and it's going to try and identify them here to put the right resources in there. So this is, I want to just throw it out here. This is a Microsoft application. Very robust, very solid, based on true project management principles in Microsoft Project. So, but it is Microsoft, which means there's 15 ways to do one thing. It's just the way it works. So we always like to look at your processes and determine what's the best way for us to teach your users. Which of those 15 ways to do one thing really makes sense for your team? Is it to do it here at the project level? Is it to do it at the schedule board level? Or you can, it's not like you're selecting you have to do one or the other, but we want to be able to train your people to do it the right way that makes sense for them, that's the most efficient for them. So it may be here, it may be somewhere else, but that's something to remember. I'm going to show you the schedule board, and we're kind of going to do some scheduling that way. All right, so this is the project you have. This is the work breakdown structure, WBS. We also can go in here and look at it from a project estimate standpoint. So this one is looking at the different roles: functional consultant, architect, developer, program manager, and look at the estimated times that this work is being scheduled. Excuse me. And then because we're phasing this off by sales, right? There's a couple of different ways to look at this: effort, cost, and sales. We're going to look at it by sales first, and you can see it's broken down by week. So what it's doing is it's providing us a way to look at the estimated anticipated billing by week for all these various roles and what that means to our company. So we can do some projections in terms of what we expect to be invoicing on this project, broken out by whatever time period we've selected inside of the contract. in this case, we're looking at a weekly billing cycle. We're looking at, we can certainly change this. It can be adjusted. It can be, you know, you can change it off. We can group it by category instead. So that's just a little bit different look, right? So we can do some analysis over on our projects and where we are on our projects. We also can go and look at it from an effort standpoint. So this is based off of hours, right? How many hours are going to be billed out? So if we're looking at resource utilization, maybe we want to take a quick look at this and try and perhaps make some adjustments to it as we're into the project. We can also look at it from a cost standpoint if we have all of our costs inputted correctly as well. So it gives us the ability to really focus on managing an effective project, not just from the customer standpoint, but also internally for us as well. I also want to show you, you can change this up a little bit so you can look at it at the grid view level. You can really get a good idea, just break it down bit by bit in terms of how you want to do it. We can change prices, update prices. So all of that information allows us to effectively manage the project and make adjustments as we need to. Once we're into the project, and there's not going to be a lot of information here, but we can start seeing a little bit about what we're actively using project tracking level wise, so we can kind of go in and see where we are from an actual hours against our estimate, and then of course any variables. This is on the wrong scale, so let me just change that out. We're back to week or month where we were before. So again, back to not just the creation of the project plan, which honestly is in many organizations, people do a great job of planning. They do a great job of setting up the beginnings of the project and perhaps getting the right resources, and then you start the project, right? And project plans start slipping to the side and you don't update them, and you have a problem tracking hours again, you know. So those are the problems that come up when you're managing a project that can get you off track. And the tools exist here to very easily, very quickly take a look at actual hours. So you're not taking from one application and trying to build it back. Your team is entering their hours here, and I'm going to show you this in a second. They're entering your hours directly in here, whether it's through the web interface or through the mobile app, that they can just pull it up and say, I worked on this project this day, this day, this day, submit my hours. Well, that all starts feeding directly into this project plan, starts feeding directly into all of the metrics and KPIs and reporting that you've got around projects, as well as feeding the project contract, which feeds the invoices. Okay? Okay, so that's at the project level itself, and there's a lot of ways to, again, you can see here across the top, we've got the quote is beyond, now we're into planning, delivering, completing, and closing the project. All of these allow us to look at various types of tasks that we can do as a project manager or as a practice manager to start looking at what's going on with our team and going along with how our projects are being driven. And you can see this is being delivered at the project level itself, but you also have reporting and views into breaking down not just a singular project, but breaking down projects by project manager, breaking down projects by contracting unit, by team. There's a lot of different ways to slice and dice and bring you the level of detail that you need without trying to overwhelm you with detail that you don't. All right, so let's go in and now take a look at the schedule board. All right, so sorry. So we've talked about the project. You can see we have, and I'm just going to jump in here real quick as we move over. We have a couple of different project templates that we can grab. We can bring into the system. We can bring in and create new templates. We can upload a template. We can do all kinds of different things to bring this in and prepare for it. You can take projects that you build from scratch for projects inside of Dynamics 365 and actually turn them into templates. So once you've taken the time and built out an enormous list of different project template types and different project types, then you can have these in here as templates and be able to go back and use those as your base to start a new project. I mean, every project manager I know lives to be able to do that. Recreating the wheel for every project is one of the most tedious, time-consuming, least efficient ways to manage projects. And as project managers, we love to be able to start with a template, make our adjustments accordingly, and then move on from there. Okay? Also here, again, we talked about project contracts real quickly. These are just really talking about what the total amount is. We can break these out and pull them up and actually look at all the different lines that are included. We can link back and take a look at where we are from a contract performance standpoint. There's some metrics involved, gross profit analysis. We can dive into the actual line items if we choose to. There's a lot of different things that we can do, but again, these are fed by the process, and that's the most important part, is that it's being driven by the process that your team should normally be taking care of, right? Milestones, we have the ability to build those. These are typically where you're meeting certain milestones, of course, before you're sending out bills. All right, let's jump into the schedule board. Now, with a schedule board, there are a million different ways to look at this. Again, we talked about this being used for not just project service, but for the field service module as well. And you can do it as a combination of both. So the first thing is I need to take a look at my resources for my set of projects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the technician role, because this is for field service. I'm not looking for technicians, right? What I'm looking for, however, is our functional consultants or practice, and I can add multiples. I can leave it blank, or I can say I need a functional consultant, I need a practice manager, I need blah, blah, blah. So in this case, just to keep it manageable here for our demo, I'm going to grab functional consultant, okay? And that's the first piece. So I'm just looking for functional consultants, and the characteristics, you can see the different, these are really the skill sets that you're building and you're applying a rating to. I'm going to just grab the CRM side. And you can see under CRM, we can look for any rating, or I just want the folks that are truly proficient in CRM. For our demo, I'm just going to say familiar, okay? And I can add different ones as well. I can also grab territories. I can grab the different organizational units, the contracting units that we talked about before. Resource types can be internal users, they can be contacts in the system, in field service type scenarios, and in some project service scenarios, they can be pieces of equipment. They can be trucks, they can be any number of types of resources that you're going to build inside here. In this case, in our demo environment, we've got users, contacts, accounts, and equipment set up. An account would be, say, you're bringing in a consulting firm or something like that. And then, of course, teams and business units. So you have a lot of different ways to slice and dice this. I'm going to go ahead and click search, and it's going to return me a set of resources that meet the criteria that I've got here. Now, I apologize real quick. I need to change and go back to show you some data in here, and unfortunately, the demo data here is based off of December dates, and we haven't been able to, take it and move it forward yet and reset it to today. But this is the resource board in terms of how you have it set up and what you're looking at for a specific period of time. In this case, we can see that Bernadette is rocking it, right? So if we set our requirements, our billable levels at 40 hours is our goal, we can see that she's above the 40 hours. We can see that Diana is just knocking it out. She's got 40 hours booked out from here till eternity, it looks like, right? Kenya down here is on other projects. She's got 28 hours. So you can really start seeing who's available when and what they're working on. So if we look at trying to schedule folks for projects, we can do a couple of things here in terms of resources. We may be a large organization. We may have 150 consultants. As a schedule person or as a project manager, I may not know every person intimately. I may not know their skill set intimately. But for instance, if I hover over Bernadette here, I get a list of the skills that she has in here in the system. And these are generally what we recommend is you do, you set this up so that the resource themselves identifies the skills that they have competency in, and then you work with them to set what their proficiency level is, right? You may have some certification process internally that you want to maintain. That's great too. In her case, she's mostly accounting, project management. She's familiar with agile methodology and CRM. She has a good, not proficient, so the bars tell you what level they're at. And she has a main role as a functional consultant, right? Diana, she's got a little bit different view. She's got CRM. We look at Caitlin. She's got great skills around CRM, which is what we're looking for, project management, and agile methodology, okay? So we can really start seeing the different skills within our resources, how they're booked out. You can see the different percentages. And then if we look at Diana here, no, let's look at Bernadette. She has more than one project. We can even see what project she's working at. So if we hit the drop-down arrow, it expands it out. And at a project level, she's working on this Contoso sales management project pretty exclusively for 4 or 5 months, right? She's booked out a certain number of hours, and then she's also helping with this ABC Help Desk Management project. She's only got 9 hours booked out on it, but it's spread out over a couple of different weeks. So you can even start moving these. You can scroll. You can change, drag and drop all of this right here on this window. You can also then say, all right, so I looked at Caitlin, and she's got all kinds of availability. Maybe she just joined the company. Maybe she just came over from another group, you know, came back from PTO, whatever the case may be. She's got a lot of available time. So we can look at her time and just start selecting areas and say, well, we want to kind of grab her for this period of time and see if we can have her take care of our project. Again, we talked about Microsoft 15 ways to do one thing. So this is the booking method. So we can go in here and click book. We have some areas broken out for her. Shows the resource. We can scroll down here and find our project, or we can just filter it by name. It's this one here. We can start saying we want to just take up her full capacity. So it's going to book her out 40 hours a week for our project. If she had other projects, we could grab the remaining, or we could set up from a percentage standpoint. We could also just specify that we want her to do, you know, 200 hours. And then we have the ability to go in here again. I can't go into each one of these because of time, but we can grab her and schedule her. This is hard. You can't change it. It's proposed. She can accept it or not. Soft means another project manager might be able to come in and request that she move some of her time so that they can use her as well. All right, and then from here we can go ahead and book her out for this project. And we can do this by person. We can do this by role. We can do this and really fill our project in this way. The resources also have the ability to go in and take a look through the app at the various projects that are out there that they may not be assigned to, where they look at their time and say, hey, I have some billable time here. I want to jump on another project. And they have the ability through the app to go in and say, hey, can I participate in this project here, which sends a notification to the project manager, and they can look at it and see if they can include them in the project. So lots of flexibility here from a scheduling standpoint, okay? And then, of course, as things get through here, you can run all kinds of metrics against your utilization, your resource utilization, and how folks are managing their time as well. Okay, so that's the schedule board. I could spend an hour on this. I apologize. This is sort of a quick flyby, but there's incredible functionality here to allow you to truly manage your team and your resources and keep them functioning and keep them busy. Quickly, let's go over to time entry. So again, we talked about managing the process, right? So a user now in the field is working on various projects, and they need to enter their time. And they can do it a couple of different ways. Again, Microsoft, 15 ways, remember that. The most efficient way for them actually is through the app, and unfortunately we don't have time to show you the mobile app today, but it's the default mobile app that's available. There's a section where you can go in, scroll to, and put time entry. So all of your users have the ability to go in and do that, and it functions pretty much like this, right? So we're here on Wednesday. I'm going to just go ahead and click the plus sign here. And I'm going to say I just worked, I can enter the time if I want to, but I'm just going to scroll because you don't want to see me try and type, trust me. And again, so you can track vacations, you can track all kinds of different things. This is configurable so that if your team has PTO, you can be tracking that PTO here. They just enter it on their list so that it shows up on your time entry. They can identify the role, perhaps, that they are participating in, whether I'm a functional consultant in this role. And then you have these two, internal and external comments. External comments are going to be showing up on the invoice, right? Performed design for project. Wow, no typos. Amazing. So we can type that in here. Sorry, forgot to grab my project. So here's where I can go in and grab the various projects. I'm just going to grab this one. And these are ones that are assigned to me. If I got thrown into one that's not necessarily assigned to me, I can click the show all projects, and now I can go grab that CRM consulting project, right? I can also bill my time to specific project tasks. So not only at the project level, but I can also say I handled the proposal workshop because that was one of the called out, perhaps, benchmark tasks that needs to be used in billing. Then I can go ahead and just save that time, and it pops it in here. And you can see that these are all listed here as drafts. And the different colors really come down to the different time sets and projects, and that's, again, something that you can configure. So the users can go in, fill up their time. You can really see how it's all broken out. These here along the left-hand side are not times, they're hours. So you can see that I've got 4 hours here, I've got 2 hours here, 4 hours here. I see my breakdown here. All that's well and good, right? Maybe I'm a user, I don't like this view. I can also add my time in using the grid. And these are all, I can check here, I can select this. I'm not going to grab that. I'm going to say I was a project manager. This is work time. It's on Tuesday. I worked an hour, and then I'm done, right? So I can just tab all the way off that. It saves it, and it adds that in, and it moves us on, okay? So as a user, I've got the ability to do that. Lastly here, a user goes ahead and fills this out. You can see this is all in draft mode, and then I can go ahead and click submit, and I submit it to my approver, who approves the time and then allows it to be invoiced, okay? And again, for the users, it's generally easy to do it on their phones, especially if they're out in the field, and the mobile app is compatible with all mobile devices, right? Whether you're on an iPad, whether you're on an Android phone, an iPhone, or a Windows phone, for that matter. Last thing I want to show, last thing I want to show here real quickly is the expense side of it. Looks pretty much the same, right? I can go ahead and grab it here, except that I've got the ability to add in the expense. This is lunch for the team. The amount was $45. Tax on this, if I want to track that separately, was what, $8. And then I can actually even assign it to a project. I can grab the category. This is a meal, and then any line item comments that I want to move forward on. And then I can even add the receipt. So if you've snapped a picture of the receipt, I can add it here. And this is also phone enabled as well, and so your users would then have the ability just to take the phone and snap the picture of the receipt and add it right in here. Boom, they're done. Pretty great functionality, bringing it in and adding it to a project, or even as we see customers oftentimes do, they create an internal project where even though it's not a billable expense to a customer, they can do it internally as well. Okay, and that was expenses. We're kind of out of time here, but I think we've pretty much covered the bulk of what we needed to cover here today. Really getting granular in here. This is a whole nother set of discussion topics that we can talk to at a later date in terms of resource requests, the roles, the skill sets, the proficiency models, and how to set that up and how to manage that effectively internally. Obviously, actuals is part of the billing from your contract, pushing into all of the different pieces here. The actual side of this is, looking at this at a true line item basis. What's the project ID? What is this? Is this time? Is this an expense? Is it miscellaneous? How is this all broken out? So you've got the data, and once you've got the data in the system, you have the ability to slice and dice it quite effectively.